forego my usual Omega Metroid podcast opening and instead start this episode off with a joke. What do you get when a Canadian, a Kiwi, and a West Virginian walk into a bar? You get this week's episode of the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined by two very special guests. I'll introduce Kathrine first, because ladies first. We got Kathrine Endicott from Zelda Dungeon, maybe one of the best Legend of Zelda players that I know. After only me, maybe. How you doing, Kathrine?
Oh, that's high praise.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. I love talking Metroid. It's good to be here.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. I feel like it's been a long time coming. And speaking of a long time coming, it feels like we've been pumping this guy's tires for forever, and rightfully so. We've got the man, the myth, the legend himself, Kiwi Talkz, coming on the Omega Metroid podcast this week. Kiwi, how you doing, bud?
Good. Thank you for having me. Yes, it has been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's we've chatted not in any kind of recorded fashion, but it's nice to finally do like an episode together. You're kind of saying that, like, you know, as an interviewer, you don't get to you kind of just ask the questions instead of answering the questions. So this will be a nice little turnaround, I feel like. Yeah,
I'm on the other side for a change, so I get to feel what it's like.
So we have a fun episode up for today, and I actually feel like, guys, we should just get right into it because we have a lot of questions. So this week we asked everybody, all the Omega Metroid fans, to submit some fan questions, but in the premise of would you rather. So every question is a would you rather themed question. So the premise is simple: would you rather option A or would you rather option B? So I think that we should actually like just get going here because I'm ready. I'm fired up. What do you guys think?
Yep, let's do this.
Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to start off, with a question from Cap. And Cap says, would you rather be head of the marketing team for Metroid Prime Federation Force 2 or Metroid Other M2? You'd actually be surprised how many questions we got comparing Other M and Federation Force. I don't know, Kathrine, what do you think? This is a doozy.
Well, I have never played Federation Force, so I'm kind of in the dark there a little bit. So I'm not sure. I have seen people discuss it and say that it's kind of similar to Triforce Heroes in some respects, I would say. And I know how you feel about Triforce Heroes.
Federation Force is better than Triforce Heroes. Let's just put that on the record right now.
Okay.
But it's in the same category, for sure.
Okay, is it the same deal where you have to have, like, really good, you know, you have to have a good group of people to play with, or is it something that you can play?
You can play it solo, but it's not that great. Let's just say that.
See, that was my issue with Triforce Heroes. I played it solo, and it was a miserable experience for me.
Okay.
But I actually, I know Other M has its issues, but I would rather go with Other M. I think its cinematography is gorgeous. With some tweaked gameplay, I think it could be a lot better. Get rid of that voice acting.
There we go.
And I'm going to go Other M.
Okay, starting to show off with violence. I like that. Kiwi, what do you think? You're the head of marketing for Metroid Prime Federation Force 2 or Other M2. What do you think?
Federation Force 2, hands down. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Federation Force could have been a great game. I think it was just executed poorly and released at the wrong time. Other M is a turd. Like, that's all. that's all I will say about Other M. You cannot market. You cannot market.
We're going to be talking about Other M a lot on this show. Let me just give you a spoiler for some of these questions. I agree with you, Kiwi. I feel like Metroid Prime Federation Force had potential, and I think that a sequel would have potential as well if they just tweaked a few things like the graphics and maybe the gameplay to an extent. But I think you're right. Like, circumstance really is what doomed this game. It came out at the wrong time. So I think that, let's say if you release Federation Force 2, I think you'd have an easier time marketing that after, like, releasing Metroid Prime 4 or something like that than you might if you're just like, we got the sequel to Other M coming out. Because I think that is just, like, such a damaged brand and name that...
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Ridley fan, our buddy Gameworm, has a question. Would you rather have Metroid Prime 4 with a multiplayer mode or a standalone Metroid Prime Hunters 2? I don't know about this. I feel like on one hand, I don't really care about multiplayer in Metroid Prime 4. I think it might happen. I think it might not. I think if I had to pick, I'd say might as well just bundle it in to Metroid Prime 4 to up the value of that game and maybe give it some extra legs. I don't know. Maybe a Hunters 2 would be successful. Maybe it wouldn't. I feel like traditionally multiplayer in Metroid hasn't ever really knocked it out of the park. And maybe, again, circumstances to blame for that. But I think I'm going to bundle multiplayer in Metroid Prime 4. What about you guys?
Yeah. Metroid Prime 4 all the way, just from a marketing standpoint. Because even with the multiplayer within Prime 4, you don't actually know what it would be either. Like, effectively, Metroid Prime Hunters and Prime 4 could have the same multiplier, right? So
yeah,
but
that's true.
Yeah, and Prime 4 is more hyped.
Yeah, I agree. I'm Prime 4.
I think that for a Metroid fan, it would be a lot easier to market a single-player game with added multiplayer than it would be to market a multiplayer game with almost like a bonus afterthought single-player campaign, kind of like Hunters was. So yeah, I think this is a sweep right here. I think we're ready for another sweep, because I think that I'm betting that we all have the same opinion on this next one. Metroid Hunter 1 asks, would you rather have a remake of Fusion be in the style of Metroid Dread or a new, different style? I don't know. I feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Metroid Dread looked gorgeous. That would look awesome in a Metroid Fusion remake. I don't think that... So we were kind of talking about this a few weeks ago. Like, the Zelda series has a lot more differences, like, stylistically than Metroid does. But I feel like Metroid Dread really kind of nailed it out of the park. So if they were going to make a Metroid Fusion remake, which I think that they are, I think that they should do it in the style of Metroid Dread, for sure.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that game is gorgeous. It's kind of embarrassing how many hours I have in Dread at this point. It's more than Skyward Sword, and Skyward Sword is one of my favorite Zelda games. I was looking at my profile earlier today, and I was like, holy cow. It's like 100 hours in Dread.
Yeah, I think I'm at 110, which is outrageous for, like, considering you could beat that game in like 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing with Metroid Fusion is, effectively, if you just did it the same game with graphics like Dread and maybe the gameplay in terms of the mechanics like Dread, it would be amazing, and you wouldn't even have to add anything else to it. Just those two things, and it would be so good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We've talked about a Metroid Fusion remake before. Lots that they could do to kind of improve the feng shui of that game. So,
totally.
And the style of Dread would definitely, I think, go a long way for that.
Just imagine the slide.
Yeah. Plus, we saw like what the fusion suit looks like in Dread. Like, that would look badass.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This one comes from our buddy.
Too.
I'm sorry, Kathrine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, with Dread's DLC that's been coming out, they've got the different modes that fit certain players, the veteran mode, the Dread mode, and then they released the rookie mode as well. And with Fusion, one of my issues with it was that I just continuously died, like, constantly. So I think having modes like that available would be helpful as well.
Yeah, totally. All right, this is from Spire Fan, and Spire asks, in response to common fan notions that Samus is lonely, her friends keep dying, would you want her to continue to fly solo, or should she have a reoccurring team of friends to count on to show up every now and then? Spire didn't exactly go by the code of would you rather, so I'm going to rephrase it. Would you rather Samus keeps on playing games by herself, or has a team of friends, such as like Umos or Anthony Higgs or any of the Hunters? I'm actually kind of in favor of Samus maybe getting like not a friend, but like a teammate or something like that, because we were talking about Samus Returns the other day and AM2R, and I feel like one of the real strengths of that game is like at the end of the game when you have the baby Metroid with you, and like you really kind of feel like a connection there, and it's really nice to just have like someone with you on this journey after playing alone for so long. Now, I think that you don't overdo it, of course, but again, like, we kind of already were saying that Other M maybe wasn't the best, but I think that everyone kind of likes Anthony Higgs in that game, and it's because he's just like a dude that's on your side, which is very rare for Metroid. So I'm actually in favor of this, to an extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead, Kathrine.
I think everybody needs somebody to help them out at some point in their lives, and even though Samus has gone it alone for so long, and she's the bad A bounty hunter of the series, everybody needs some help along the way. And I liked Anthony Higgs, another M. I could definitely see somebody joining Samus in her journeys in the future to help her out. I'm not a huge fan of Adam.
No, Adam sucks.
But I think, coming from a Zelda fan, I think there are some Zelda games that do it really well. Like, I know a lot of people give Spirit Tracks a bad name because of the stylus controls, but the companionship there with Link and Zelda is just so charming, and it makes the adventure a lot more meaningful to have somebody along the journey with Link, and I can see Samus possibly having somebody helping her out along the way.
It would be all about the execution and how you do it. And you don't want an instance where you have like a Fee or a Navi and they just never shut up.
Can't believe you're picking on Navi like that. That's terrible. Obviously it's about execution. I think that, so we were kind of discussing last week that they could maybe try and pull like a Metal Gear Solid 2 for the next game, like have like a new Raiden-esque character, and maybe there is even a scenario where like you're playing in the game and like you can switch between two playable characters at different points in the map to like help them kind of further along the map. Like I think that that's really compelling gameplay, and really kind of like a refreshing take that Metroid hasn't really like had before. And I guess Kathrine, you're kind of right. We sort of have that with Adam to an extent in Metroid Dread, but we know that that's not really Adam. And even if it was really Adam, I still feel like he just kind of sucks. Like he's like I feel more attached to like the Edakuns and the Decoras than I do Adam. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely
the Chozo or
for sure.
Yeah.
So I'd be for it. Doomino Crossing has two questions.
We need him again.
Yeah. So speaking of the animals, two questions, and this is a one word answer here. So Doomino says, would you rather save or kill the animals? Kathrine.
Speedrunning perspective, you gotta kill them.
Wow. Wow.
Oh my god.
Brutal.
You're talking to a speedrunner here.
God. I wasn't ready for that. I thought everyone was gonna say save.
Yeah, I'm pro save.
We had a stream a couple weeks ago where we had a donation incentive to kill the animals, and I'm gonna tell you something. If we would have hit that donation incentive, I would have just ignored it and saved the animals anyways. I was never gonna let them die. Never ever. Gotta save the animals. Cold-hearted Kathrine. All right, Doom has a second question. Would you rather Metroid forever sells poorly, but we get Game of the Year tier releases, or Metroid sells well, but we get other M/Federation Force tier releases? Kiwi, what do you think?
Game of the Year. If it's other M, then I just won't play it. I'll be like, you know what? I'm done with this franchise. I'm done.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather have a quality game than suffer through the pain of something like that again.
Here's the thing about that, okay? Let's use Cyberpunk 2077 as an example of what I'm about to say. It's one thing to sell a bunch of copies of your game if you're a carny and you can flee town the next day, and then when people realize that what they bought is actually awful. But if you are interested in building up your franchise and building up longevity, and you sell, like, for example, Cyberpunk 2077 sold like 14 million copies in its first like 3 weeks or something like that. And in the last year after has sold 4 million copies, which is a staggering drop off considering it was like $5 even. So like if you sell a product and you sell a lot of it, but it's terrible, no one's coming back to buy the product after that because you've already burned them once. You fooled them once, and they're not going to get fooled again. So yeah, I mean, I think that obviously from like a fandom perspective, we want Game of the Year tier releases, but even from like a business perspective, like you can't sustain selling crappy games. Like that's how Assassin's Creed burned out. And I guess it kind of made its comeback, but I remember after a time where like nobody wanted to touch Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, but I think one of the problems with Metroid as well is wrong place, wrong time. That could be like the nickname for Metroid because it's always, well, not always, but almost always being released at the wrong time against another major game. Or when a system's dying. Like Dread feels like the first time they actually marketed it properly and released it in a good time frame.
I can see that. I think I would say Metroid Prime, the original. I think that was in the right place, right time.
Yeah, that was the right place.
Well. Yeah. But certainly to your point about we just talked about Federation Force. I mean, if you can't spell out wrong place, wrong time more than that game, I don't know what that says.
Oh yeah, that's actually totally not reading the room.
Yeah, totally. Let's move on to a question that I feel like might be. It's kind of in common, but not really, I guess. This is from Chris06. Would you rather have a Metroid/Doom crossover or a Metroid/Halo crossover? Only one can happen. I feel like I'm not really actually down for either, but if I had to pick, it'd probably be Metroid and Doom. Just because I feel like that would be a little bit more fun than Metroid and Halo.
Why wouldn't you be down for either one of them? It would be so cool.
I don't know. I feel like in my mind, if it's going to be like a crossover, I kind of want it to be like a lighthearted kind of fun crossover. And I feel like Halo and Doom aren't lighthearted, fun, serious. Not that they're not fun, but you know what I mean? Like they're not, the tone isn't necessarily like Mario and Rabbids. I feel like is a great crossover game because it's kind of goofy. It doesn't have to take itself too seriously. I don't know. I just, maybe, obviously it's all in the execution, but I don't see it.
I wouldn't necessarily categorize Metroid as heartwarming fun either.
Yeah,
exactly. That's my point. Yeah, like you're kind of taking like two things that are the same and mashing them together, and I guess you could maybe do it in like a fun, cheesy way, like Alien versus Predator, but which is awesome. But yeah, I don't know.
I reckon Metroid and Halo would probably work together more easily than say Doom and Metroid. Though I think you could possibly have Metroid stuff in Doom DLC as opposed to having Doom DLC in a Metroid game.
Yeah, I could see that. I think it would be fun if, like, you know, the Doom Slayer was just ripping through Torian or something like that and chainsawing Metroids or something. That could be fun.
Oh, God.
Totally.
So graphic.
And as I was playing Doom and Doom Eternal, I was thinking they must have been influenced by Metroid Prime.
Totally.
When I was playing it, I was like, there's definitely some influence here.
You know, I'm looking at Doom Eternal on my game shelf, and I still haven't got around to playing it yet. I really should. I should be speaking to some Doom devs soon, hopefully. So I'm going to ask them. Oh, there we go.
I'm going to ask them directly. I'm like, hey, were you influenced by Metroid Prime?
Well, I think that the answer, the game, at least the first Doom, speaks for itself, I think. Kathrine, did you weigh in on this? What would you rather, Doom or Halo?
Well, I'm not really familiar with either one. What is Doom rated, by the way?
Oh, it's rated M.
Is it M? Okay,
it's
yeah.
M.
M for gore.
I'm not an M type of player. I don't play M-rated games.
Okay.
This is not my cup of tea. I've been a Nintendo kid for most of my life, so that's just kind of the games I gravitate towards. But I did have a friend growing up who was like obsessed with Halo, and I got to play some of those games and watch her play those, and I think Metroid lends itself really well to a crossover with Halo, so that's what I'm choosing here.
Okay, I respect that. You would definitely not be down with Doom. I'll tell you that for sure.
yeah. It's pretty gory.
It's rated M for major gore.
Yeah, I thought it was, but I wanted to double check,
Yeah.
and I'm not good with that stuff, so...
all right, we got a question.
Hard pass for me.
All right, we got a question from HKH 2003. Would you rather... What the hell is this question? Would you rather know what is under Dark Samus's suit or the SAX's suit? So I don't think he means that in a suggestive way, but rather what Dark Samus actually looks like or what the SAX actually looks like. So I don't know. I feel like we kind of saw what Dark Samus looked like.
That's what I'm thinking.
Metroid
I'm like,
Prime
didn't
2.
we
Yeah,
already
I agree.
see what they look
Yeah.
like under the helmets?
So I guess by default, our answer then is SAX, because like, I don't know, what is the next parasite? Maybe it's just like a Core X shaped as Samus? Who knows?
Yeah, yep. I'm going with SAX.
Yeah, me too.
All right. This next one...
Adds mystery.
Yeah, this next one is a little bit long, so bear with me here. So this is from Blue Kentucky Boy. The Metroid series has had many guest development studios throughout its history. Some would say this encourages innovations and new ideas in the series. My question is, moving forward with the series, would you rather have Metroid be internally developed, or would you rather have Metroid's development be assisted by other studios, such as Retro, Team Ninja, Mercury Steam, or a completely new studio? What do you think? Well, Kiwi, what do you think about this?
Yeah, well, I probably am a bit biased because I've spoken to some of the devs, but I would probably outsource it to Western studios, primarily because the reason why they did it in the first place is because first-person shooters or shooters in general, or the way the Metroid franchise is, it doesn't actually play to a lot of Nintendo's strengths. And I think the reason why the Metroid Prime trilogy, for example, is as good as it is because you have a fusion of Western and Eastern design philosophies. So I think if you remove that element, then they won't actually end up being what they are.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And I actually, like, this has already happened, right? So, like, it's not like it's a would you like, the question, this could have been posed in 1996, and, you know, if it was, I don't know that you ever get, like, if it was just up to Nintendo, you never get Metroid Prime. I don't think we ever see that game if it was just up to Nintendo internally.
Yep.
We don't get Metroid Dread. We don't get Samus Returns. Maybe we don't even have Metroid anymore. Like, I mean, like, the last several Metroid games have not been developed by Nintendo, and I'm not sure that maybe it's just that they understand that, like, you know, maybe, I think maybe Nintendo would admit that, like, Metroid isn't, like, in their, I don't know, gearhouse necessarily, and, like, other people maybe get it better.
Yeah, but because Metroid doesn't sell well in Japan, there's a disconnect there. Like, Shigeru Miyamoto didn't really understand the gravity of how much Metroid is favored in the West and how popular it is until he found out from coming to America so much during the Nintendo 64 era. So
let me push back on that just a little bit, though, because I actually, like, if you look at the Kirby series, Kirby doesn't sell all that spectacularly either. And I'm not just picking on Kirby because, you know, it's Kirby. I'll use Fire Emblem too. Like, Fire Emblem never, like, did gangbuster numbers either, but, like, I feel like Nintendo gets those series where I felt like they never really got Metroid. So I think that if it were left up to them, maybe, and I mean, obviously they made Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion, which are fantastic, but, you know, we don't get the evolution of Metroid such as we have.
Well, Metroid is the black sheep of all of Nintendo's IP, in my opinion. Like, if you stick it against any other IP, I think it looks out of place a lot of the time. It's darker.
Yeah.
It's more westernized. It has a lot of horror aspects in many of the games. Whereas Fire Emblem and Kirby are like, they actually did all right in Japan initially. I think it's because they catered so much to Japan.
I'm pretty horrified whenever I see Kirby.
Well, hey, that new game that came out is getting a lot of praise, so you're probably going to see more Kirby now.
Yeah, I probably will. You're right. That's horrifying.
Oh, the horror of a pink fluff ball. Get it away.
Yeah. I feel like, Kathrine, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, the Prime Trilogy and Dread are my favorite Metroid titles. So without those outside sources, you know, I would be missing a lot of my favorite Metroid games. And then another issue is, you know, it's kind of hit and miss with these. Who was it that worked on Other M? Wasn't that one of the issues?
That was
because
Team
it was an
Ninja.
outside source?
Team Ninja,
Yeah.
which is a Japanese studio. And that leads more to, because Brian Walker, I'm not sure if you guys know, and this was documented by Did You Know Gaming recently as well, is there was a problem with the word bounty hunter. It meant something else when the Japanese used it. And so there was this massive discrepancy between what a bounty hunter is in the West versus what it is in Japan. Because they thought that she was just some noble adventurer in Japan, whereas it means something completely different in the West. So, yeah, so that's partly why I think Other M turned out like it did. I'm like, okay, they had a different view in their head of what they actually thought Samus was supposed to be compared to the West. So when they released Other M, and it got slammed,
It
they were
failed.
like,
Yeah, it failed.
Yeah. They were like, what do we do here? And that's probably why it was on the back burner. Not only just because it sold bad, but they had totally misread what the franchise is or how it's viewed in the West.
Yeah, lost in translation.
Yeah, which is its bread and butter. There's no point in them catering to Japan with the Metroid franchise because it's just never going to be big. Japan doesn't like shooters. They don't like sci-fi for the most part. So
you know what is crazy actually? I saw the tweet. So Splatoon 3 is now releasing it got the reverse delay. It's actually releasing like 3 months ahead of when it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And Japanese the Japanese account for Nintendo tweeted out that information. This was like the most highly retweeted and liked tweet that I think they've ever done. It was crazy. They put it up next to like the Switch reveal numbers and like the other numbers. Like Splatoon is like massive over there, but again, that's like a very different cutesy kind of franchise as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it falls within the Nintendo staple for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But then on the other hand, you also have like Super Metroid, which is god tier level of gaming.
Yeah,
and that's Nintendo. So it's like weigh the pros and the cons and
that is a valid point.
Kind of roll the dice here.
Valid point.
Yeah, that is. All right, so Blue Kentucky Boy has another great question here. Would you rather have Kraid in the next Metroid Prime game or Metroid Prime in the next 2D game? With the assumption that both options make sense in the context of the story.
So when we say Metroid Prime, are we saying Dark Samus or the actual Metroid Prime from the original Metroid Prime?
Let's stipulate that it can be either.
Okay.
Let's stipulate that it can be either. I think that for my money, I would have said Kraid before Metroid Dread. And you know what? I'm going to say Kraid still, because I think that I'm done with Metroid Prime and Dark Samus. It had a great arc in the Metroid Prime trilogy and a fitting end, and I'm ready for that to just be put to bed. Whereas I feel like Kraid is just kind of like a cool little, not an Easter egg, but Kraid doesn't have any big bearing on the story. So even though we just got Kraid in Metroid Dread, I would be okay seeing that in a Metroid Prime 3D fight. I think that'd be really cool. But more so just because I feel like the Dark Samus Metroid Prime story is done and it was wrapped up in a great way.
Yeah, on the same. I'm pro Kraid 3D. I don't even know like what you do with a Metroid Prime or Dark Samus in 2D that hasn't really been done before. I could think of some pretty cool ideas of how to fight Kraid in 3D. Yeah, totally. What do you think, Kathrine?
I think it would be neat to visualize what a 2D Metroid Prime would look like. But like you said, Andy, I think the Prime trilogy wrapped the story up pretty well and in a bow tie. Curious to see what Prime 4 will do, though, if that's a continuation or not. I don't know. We're so in the dark with that. I really loved the Kraid battle in Dread. That's a lot of fun.
So good.
So seeing him again, I'm going to go with that.
All right. This is a great question. Have either of you guys played Mass Effect ever?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well,
sweet.
It's rated M, but...
Oh, okay. So there are some rated M games that you're into. Okay.
Well, I enjoy the story. I like that, you can do something different each time you play.
Well,
So I like that aspect of it.
This question I thought was actually great, and it reminded me of Mass Effect, which is why I asked. So this is from Metroid Theorist. He asks, would you rather have Adam remain as an uploaded mind like in Metroid Fusion and Metroid Dread, or have a future Metroid narrative where Adam takes control of an android and becomes a playable character? This reminds me of Mass Effect 3 when Edie takes control of a character. And I'm kind of digging that idea. I'm like... If I had my way, Adam would just, like, not really be in Metroid at all. But if he's going to be there, I think it would actually be, like, super sick if he took control of, like... So Metroid Theorist suggested maybe, like, a spare Emmy or something like that. Like, tell me that wouldn't be cool. I would be down for Adam in an Emmy or, like, some kind of robot. I don't know. What about you guys?
Yep. I'm down for that.
I'm down for that.
Okay. Well,
I'm tired of seeing Adam show up and just be a voice... And that's it.
I think they just have him as a voice, particularly with Dread. I think they just did the whole computer robot voice to save on cost. That's what I honestly think, because you don't have to do any voice acting, you don't have to really do much animation, or have some high graphic art of some sort. You just have some computer program, and it's sorted. You don't have to worry
Let
about
me tell you
translations, and yeah, it's pretty easy.
I never in my life, never want to play a Metroid game where I have to stop and listen to Adam talk ever again. I did it in Metroid Fusion. I've done it in Metroid Dread. I don't want to hear it. Like, if you want to talk to me via like a Bluetooth headset or something like that, okay. But I don't want to have to stop and read what you're saying. So if we can put him in like an Android body and maybe he can just like tag along or something, I'm taking that all day, every day.
Yeah, or get my weapons taken away. Get my hand slapped for being a bounty hunter.
Indeed.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing.
All right. Let's wow, this is a doozy. Naiku has a question. Would you rather only be able to listen to Metroid Prime 1 or Metroid Prime's 2 soundtrack? Dude.
Ooh.
Okay, so I think I have to take... I think I'm going to take Metroid Prime 1. Because it has so many... Like, we're talking, like, the title theme is awesome. Phendrana, obviously. Magmore. Talon Overworld. The Rit...
So good.
And I'm thinking of, like... I'm thinking of Prime 2, and obviously that has Sanctuary Fortress, which is, like, one of the top Metroid songs.
Yep.
But I don't know if it has enough after that to, like, really... Like, I think that, like, you could make a case that, like, there could be 3 or 4 songs that are the best of Metroid Prime, where, like, in Metroid Prime 2, it's very clearly Sanctuary Fortress, and then, like, a large gap to number 2. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'm going to take Metroid Prime 1.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Prime 1. I think there's more tracks in Prime 2, but I think there's more consistency with Prime 1. Plus, Prime 2 has a lot of ambient, dark, twisted stuff. It's not really that great to listen to on its own. If you're cruising around in the car, you don't want to be listening to like dark Torvus Bog or something.
Oh. Can you imagine what kind of guy is just driving in his car? It's like 10 o'clock at night. He's listening to the Dark Torvus Bog. I don't know why I'm talking. I've been in my car before, and like my iPod's been in, and like the Wand of Gamelon title theme song comes on, so I should be quiet.
Now listen though, I do raise the volume when Gandrada's theme comes on my iPod when I'm driving. Like I turn that all the way up. Yeah,
I respect that. Rigo has a good question here. If Nintendo does remake, let me try that again. If Nintendo does, I think he's supposed to try to say make a remake for Metroid Fusion, would you enjoy it as a first-person shooter like Metroid Prime, or make it a 2.5D platform game? I think that a first-person shooter could be kind of fun in like a Alien Isolation way, but I think that I want to see it like essentially Metroid Dread, but with the Metroid Fusion story and you know, some of those cool Shine Spark puzzles and whatever. And I want my Metroid Prime like first person adventures to kind of be their own unique things. What about you guys? What do you think, Kathrine?
I think Fusion does really well the absolute terror of being chased by Samus, the X.
Yeah. With
first person, that could be even more terrifying. So seeing that would be cool. My first foray into Metroid, my first Metroid game was Corruption. I didn't join Metroid until much later in the series. I was in high school, and Corruption I got for Christmas in 2007. So my first entry into Metroid was first person. So the controls don't bother me if it's first person. I know a lot of people aren't fond of the trilogy that was re-released on the Wii because it brought Prime 1 and Prime 2 into first person as opposed to the GameCube controller. But I can definitely get on board with first person Fusion and reliving the terror of Samus chasing me.
Okay.
But at the same time, I really like Dread's, way of portraying the 2.5. Is that what he said?
Well, he's basically like asking if it's going to be like Metroid Dread, which is technically like 2.5D. I think I could get behind the first person if they kind of made the SAX like the Xenomorph in Alien Isolation. I think that would work really well. Mm-hmm. That would be cool.
You could make the bosses quite cool as well. Like imagine fighting.
I think I'm going to go first person.
Imagine fighting Cirrus in first person.
That'd be pretty rocking. Yeah. I think that like the traditionalist in me wants to see it remade in a Metroid Dread-esque, but I think that first person definitely has a lot of potential for sure. Jay has a question: would you rather have a Metroid-themed OLED Switch for Metroid Prime 4 or a Metroid Prime 4 Special Edition? I'm gonna break your heart, Jay, and say like it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I'm not like a collection console guy, so I don't really care. Probably a Metroid Prime 4 Special Edition then, I guess, is my answer.
Yeah, I'm the same. Special Edition.
Yeah, that's my answer. I got the Dread Special Edition. I got Special Edition when Samus Returns came out, so I'm a sucker for those. I got the metal casing for the Prime Trilogy when it came out, so yeah, Special Edition.
That thing is crazy expensive now. I'm glad that I got it when I did.
Yeah, me too.
All right, here we go. Beret Big Shoulders, that's a sick username, has a question. Would you rather have the Metroid Prime Trilogy ported to Switch bare bones $30 or individually with improved models and enhanced textures but for a full $50 each?
Oof.
Okay, so first of all, the Metroid Prime Trilogy is coming to the Switch. It ain't going to be $30, pal. I got news for you. It's going to be, in Canada, it's $80. I think it's $60 for you guys in the States, right, Kathrine?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and how much is it? How much does that work out for you, Kiwi?
It's between $100 to $120.
Oh my god, that's foul.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's going to be full price for the Metroid Prime Trilogy, and actually, I think that's okay because if they do what we think that they're probably going to do, which is, well, I guess if bare bones though implies that they're not going to have dual analog. So, I don't know. I think that I would probably still rather have the entire trilogy rather than like the improved models and textures and stuff for like a full price each. Because if it's full price, that's $240 for all the games. But I feel like I just feel like I kind of want people to be able to play as much Metroid as they can, as accessible as they can. And if you have like the entire trilogy that is available, I think that that's fine. Because even like the trilogy would have like the Wii version of all the games playable, and I think that they're still very playable, especially like you could use the Joy-Cons. Like it's not like you absolutely have to have dual analog. It would sure help, but I think that if they were ported over as is, those are still 3 awesome games, and I think that you want to sell them for as affordable as a price as you can.
Totally, but then
yeah, I can see them doing something like you know how they released the 3D Marios on the Switch.
Yeah.
I can see them doing that for the Prime Trilogy.
Yeah, do that or don't do it. Like if you're gonna do a remake or upgrade of some sort, make it a full-on like remake as opposed to just some little upgrades of textures and stuff. If you're doing it just for one game, so yeah, release the whole trilogy in one go. And
I agree.
And make it dual analog for people that want to use dual analog, and there you go. That's all you need to do.
I think that they could still, like, the rumor was that they're working on the first Metroid Prime.
Yeah,
they're
doing like a full remake, right? Like from the ground up, 4K, whole new graphics and all that stuff, which would be cool. Be cool. Like there are little parts of Metroid Prime that have aged a little bit and could probably be tooled up.
Totally.
But
I think I could see something like, we were just talking about Mass Effect, but like the trilogy of Mass Effect was just released, and the first game kind of had a little bit of a visual overhaul, which I think helped it out. So I could see something similar like that. So yeah. All right, we got a question from Focused Wombat. Would you rather have a live-action Metroid movie made by Paul W.S. Anderson and Mila Jovovich as Samus, or a CGI live-action hybrid movie in the vein of Sonic with a CGI baby Metroid on modern-day Earth? Okay, so obviously my view is skewed because so for anybody that doesn't know, I have a podcast called Virtual Theater. It's about video game movies and the stories that shape them. And obviously we're like 7 Resident Evil movies deep and 1 Monster Hunter movie deep into like Mila Jovovich and Paul W.'s run. I think that would be like kind of fun in like a cheesy action way. And that sounds cooler to me than whatever the hell the other option was, like the CGI baby Metroid. I don't know if I'm into that. What do you guys think? I'm probably my opinion is far skewed here.
I'm CGI Metroid. I actually think it would be incredibly hard to make a Metroid film good because you'd actually have to change a lot of the source material because you can't convert exploration to film. How the heck do you do that? And if you would, it would have to be a big blockbuster as well. So you couldn't make it make isolation the main thing, because no way would a studio approve that, and probably neither would Nintendo. Yeah, so I'd go with CGI. I think you could probably get away with stuff than doing a full live action film. Good luck to the person whoever has to make it, because it'll be incredibly hard to do.
You got Brie Larson waiting for you. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
I love it.
Kathrine,
I don't know. I don't know if Metroid lends itself to like the charismatic, cutesy CGI that Sonic can. I can definitely see Metroid turning into more of like an alien type film.
Yeah.
But I think that lies too heavily in the horror aspect, which there are horror aspects of Metroid. But I'm all for the Brie Larson bandwagon of real life Metroid, so I'm going to go with that.
I think either
Kathrine,
way, it'll get massive backlash from the fan base. I think with either
any
case,
movie that they make will get
either case.
Like the Mario one won't.
Well, I was just about to ask you, Kathrine. Will you tell Kiwi that the Super Mario Bros. Movie, 1993, with Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, is like legitimately an awesome movie?
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh,
not ironically either. It's like a legitimately awesome movie.
It's nostalgia.
Yeah, that's a fun time.
It's nostalgia, people. It's nostalgia.
Kathrine and I watched it together a couple years ago at the Zelda Dungeon Marathon. There was like 25 people in the room. That was maybe the best movie experience I've ever had in my life. That was so good.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so
the people.
Awesome.
That's the people. That's
I
not
left
the film.
early though, so I didn't see it.
Well, I mean, I love the film too.
It.
Anyways, that's for another day. We got a question from El Stefano 05. Would you rather have a Metroid Dread randomizer as a new difficulty, or have several in-game achievements? For example, finish boss X in less than Y minutes. Blah blah blah. I'm gonna say definitely a randomizer. I feel like achievements for me are kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
I've never really been a guy to share my platinums or whatever the Xbox is called. So I'll take new content definitely.
Yeah, I'm not into achievements. I don't really dig them at all. They just look like an opportunity to gloat, in my opinion. But so I'm all for a randomizer.
Yeah.
There is a randomizer for Dread. I've been watching a few people play it. It looks a lot of fun.
Oh, okay. Well, not like a official randomizer,
No.
I
It's
guess.
not. Yeah, it's not DLC released or anything like that. No, it's like fan made. But
that sounds cool. Maybe we'll have to chat after about where that might be available, because that sounds like it could be a lot of fun. All right, Logan has a question. This is great. This is maybe the best question of the entire bunch. Would you rather have a Switch remaster of Other M with improved gameplay but the same story, or a remaster of Federation Force that's mostly unchanged outside of the visuals?
Remaster of Federation Force, hands down.
Wow,
This
that was quick.
This is not even a discussion. Just Other M needs to be buried into the core of the earth and never brought up.
Wow. Did you know, so we have reviews for the Omega Metroid podcast, and almost all of them are 5 stars, but there's a couple that are like 1 star, and every one of them is like, when is this Dak guy going to stop bitching about Metroid Other M? I'm sick of listening to him. I just thought that was funny. And Kiwi's coming in with the violence against Other M as well. I love it. I agree though. I think that Federation Force, I think that the problem with Federation Force in large part was the visuals.
Yeah,
there were other problems.
If you get rid of the chibi art style, I think that
I
somewhat.
don't think it's great.
Yeah,
but I think it's better.
Like, part of the backlash was that, because it was like, what the hell's this? Some chibi robot thing. Like, if you did the whole Call of Duty-esque type realistic visuals, I think that would go a long way for some people. To take a chance on it.
If this question was reversed, and it was Other M with improved story but the same gameplay, I'm taking that. But I don't think that the gameplay was like the worst thing about Other M. It was clunky and it was awkward at times, but like, I wouldn't say that it's like completely unplayable or bad to play. But the story and the characterization and a lot of that, I feel like, is what makes it so unattractive to me and to I think a lot of other people. So I think that if you change the visuals of Federation Force, you are fixing one of the biggest problems with that game. If you improve the gameplay of Other M, you're improving it, but you're not changing one of the biggest problems with that game. What do you think, Kathrine? Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think Other M is. I think it's a gorgeous game. I think its cinematics are one of its biggest strengths, but like you said earlier, it's kind of clunky with its controls. Like switching the Wii remote from sideways to first person to shoot missiles was very awkward. And if you're not going to fix that with this question that they're asking. So, and Federation, that's the only Metroid game I haven't played. So, if they fix that, then heck, I've got a new Metroid game I can play. So I'm going to go with that one.
Other M is a blueprint of everything not to do when you're making a sequel to a game. It's like how to destroy a game, do the opposite, like, of that game. Honestly, if you want to release something that's actually good, just and satisfies fans, just do the opposite of whatever was done with Other M. Honestly, it's just.
Yeah, my sister doesn't even play Metroid, but she watched me play Other M a few times, and we still say baby. Like, at the end when she's like, the baby. Like, she doesn't even know Metroid. And anytime baby is brought up, I look at her and we just go, the baby.
Wait, which it's funny, because we were kind of dumping on Team Ninja a little bit earlier, and rightfully so, because they also they have some culpability in this game. But I think most of it really is like, that this was a Sakamoto brainchild, and that's where the biggest problems are.
Totally.
It's in with the story and the narrative and the direction.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not Team Ninja's fault. I mean, they make other games that are similar to that. It's just a really meh game. But then when you add the Metroid, when you add the Metroid umbrella on top of it, it makes it terrible. Yeah. Because they did nothing. Well, I hope that you guys like the old traditional games. Anyway.
Well, that's a weird decision, too, because you've been flying so high with Metroid Prime that it seemed like maybe natural to keep that going. But I guess there is something to be said for sprucing it up after a while. This is just not the way to do that.
I will say, though, that the live-action TV commercial for Other M,
very
that is
cool.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
I was like, that got me pumped. I was like, heck yeah, let's go. But then, not everything is as it seems.
I'll say one good thing about Other M. Is the Ridley remix is awesome. There you go. That's my
really okay.
That's the one good thing.
I'm not really a giant fan of it.
Well, I like the orchestrated version of it. It's different from all the others, I feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. And anytime that we can praise Other M, I think that we should, because it certainly gets enough. It certainly gets enough of the other direction for sure. I hope that you guys are fans of Metroid Prime Hunters, because I'm not sure that I have a big opinion on this. So, Hiba asks us, would you rather see the Federation and Space Pirates team up to take on the Kraken, which is the species that Trace is a part of, or see the Kraken and Space Pirates be the new federal threat? I don't know, man. I don't know if I have a big opinion on this. I think that, in my opinion, and people are going to dump all over me for this, but in my opinion, a lot of the hunters in Federation, or not Federation Force, in Metroid Prime hunters are kind of forgettable. So I don't know. I'm open to anything though, and maybe I'll pick the Federation and Space Pirates team up, because I think that we've never seen that, and that could be interesting. But I don't know if I'm buying Trace's clan as a big galactic threat. That being said.
I'm not. I'm pretty indifferent about it. I'm just kind of like, either or really. Maybe this a Space Pirates Federation. There you go. Yeah, I'll follow up with you, Andy. Yeah, because it's different.
Okay.
Sure. I played Hunters forever ago, and I've only played it once. I don't own it. I had to borrow it from a friend in high school, and I don't remember any of those bounty hunters whatsoever. So I have no strong opinion either way here.
All right. Well, I mean, I played Hunters last year, and I also don't really remember any of the bounty hunters. And again, I can feel people just sending me tweets right now that are Spiteri, you suck. But I mean, hey, it's true. This next one is like, holy cow. Josh Wise asks, would you rather have Metroid Prime Trilogy plus Hunters plus Pinball, or Metroid Prime 1 through 4 plus Zero Mission, Other M, and Samus Returns on the Switch? Basically, he's just asking, would you rather 2D or 3D Metroid collectibles on the Switch? He also throws in there this little nugget as well. Let's assume the games have higher resolution and widescreen. So this is just like gorge yourself on the goods here. Like, what would you rather?
I think I'd prefer 3D. Because I think a lot of the 2D games, I mean, Super Metroid is timeless. Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission, they still all look good. 3D games age faster, I feel. Even though Other M would be included in that, I can let that slide, I think.
Yeah, I'm going 3D as well.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go 3D as well. Just because, like, if we're going to take this, obviously this is a hypothetical question, but like if we're going to take this on like a real world basis, Super Metroid, Metroid 1, they're already available on the Switch. I feel like it's not long before Zero Mission and Fusion are as well. Metroid Dread is on the Switch. Let's get those other 3D ones on there.
Because isn't the Game Boy Advance emulator being leaked? So it's just a matter.
Well, that's the rumor.
Yeah, it's a matter of time.
That's the rumor. Yeah.
It's just that Nintendo is like a turtle and likes to slowly roll it out.
All right. Well, check out this next question because in my opinion, one of these things is not really like the other here. So, Zachary asks, would you rather have a game where Ravenbeak returns or have a Metroid Prime full remaster? Listen, I like Ravenbeak a lot. He's a great villain, but they can do whatever they want in a story. I think I'd rather take a Metroid Prime full remaster. You're kind of asking, like, one of these is like a C level option, and one of them is like an A level option to me. So I'm taking the A level option.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Like, if you bring Ravenbeak back, I kind of feel like you're doing with Ravenbeak what they did with the Emperor in Star Wars Episode 9. It's kind of like, dude, the guy's dead, man. Just leave it.
Somehow Ravenbeak has returned.
Yeah, I'm just...
Ravenbeak just shows up in Fortnite. He's like, oh my god. Yeah, that's a great analogy, Kiwi. I agree. Okay, this is a doozy. Here we go. Would you rather have a remake of Metroid Fusion, Zero Mission, or Super Metroid? That comes from Dagonet. I probably butchered your name, Dagonet. I'm sorry. This is a great question. So I think that you can... I'm going to take the lead on this if you don't mind. So you can break this down in a couple different ways. I think if you were to ask which game needs a remake more, it's undoubtedly Metroid Fusion. Undoubtedly. But the question is, what would you rather have? And part of me, as much as I think Super Metroid is like pretty much a perfect game, I would love to see a remake of that, maybe with like some enhanced areas and like get the slide going on in there and just, you know, some other things. I don't know. I think I might take Metroid Fusion still because I think that game needs a remake more than any of these other games. But I would be... I've kind of warmed up to the idea of a Super Metroid remake after Metroid Dread. I think that could be really awesome. What do you guys think?
Kathrine, do you want to go first? I'm still thinking.
Sure. I think Super Metroid is already such a classic, but I would like to see something similar to like what they did with A Link Between Worlds, where you take something that's not broken, but you enhance it with a new gimmick and a new story. So I would like to see something like that.
The problem with...
I know that's not really answering either question.
The problem with Super Metroid is it's already effectively Metroid 1. That's the thing. Like, because it's based in the same world, a lot of the same areas are the same. So, like, if you were to do another version of Super Metroid, that's again on Zebes, and you have Mother Brain and all that stuff for a third time, I think it would probably get quite old. I think I'd be in for a remake of Super Metroid though, with a lot of the Dread mechanics, more so than Metroid Fusion. I mean, either one would be cool, but I think like Super Metroid Yeah, I mean, I noticed going back to Super Metroid after playing Dread, I'm like, this doesn't feel as good as it used to. Primarily because of the mechanics in Dread is so good.
I think, to be fair, that you go back to any 2D, because I've played a lot of Metroid Dread, obviously, and then I did Fusion, Zero Mission, and Super doing walkthroughs, and like that's around like the board. Like you get used to having that slide button real quick.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. But obviously, because Super Metroid's a bit clunky and a bit more floaty, in terms of the mechanics department.
I hate when people say floaty. I love that.
Yeah, I don't think floaty is necessarily bad. It's just that I think in this case, because Metroid Dread has refined things so much, it's like, well, if you imagine Super Metroid with those mechanics,
right,
it would be further enhanced. I mean, that's the only thing you really need to change about Super Metroid, is just enhance the mechanics, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. This is from Quaid. This is a great question. Would you rather have a co-op Federation Prime style campaign or have Samus versus the SAX in 3D? I feel like this is actually pretty easy for me. I'm taking the Prime style co-op campaign because I feel like we pretty much had Samus versus SAX in 3D with Samus versus Dark Samus. I feel like the fights can't be that much more like dissimilar, you know? Maybe there could be some other things, but I feel like you saw Dark Samus and a lot of Samus's moves kind of turned against her in those fights. Whereas, you know, we've seen a co-op Federation campaign in Federation Force. It just wasn't very good. So I'd like to give another opportunity to do that a little bit better.
Yep. I'm with the co-op. I think we've already tread that ground.
Yeah.
With the SAX.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Check out this one. This is from Death Proof. Sick name. Would you rather play Metroid Tennis or Metroid Golf? Buddy, I'm taking both. What about Metroid Hockey? Where's that at? Let's get that going.
Listen, I played the crap out of Mario Golf on the 64, so I'm going golf on this one.
How would you even... so would the balls be a morph ball in Metroid Golf?
Maybe. They could be. I don't know. Maybe we should do a podcast on that. Pitch a Metroid Golf game.
Yeah.
Just golfing in Brinstar or something like that. That'd be awesome, actually.
Or would you have side characters as the ones playing golf?
Well,
and Samus is the ball.
Samus and
Samus
Ridley.
is the ball. Yeah.
I think I like the idea of like golfing as Kraid or something like that. I think that sounds cool to me.
Having all of the enemies take a shot at Samus.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I think I'm with golf. Yeah, because you could do cooler things with the environment, I feel.
Yeah. All right, so this is from Saddlezilla. Would you rather A, see Samus voice acted in English and have about a paragraph's worth of dialogue in a game, or B, have Samus never talk again? I think this is another easy one, actually, guys. I think that the problem with Other M isn't that Samus talks, it's the delivery and the dialogue. I like when Samus talks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked it in Dread when she was talking to Quiet Robe.
That was awesome.
She spoke in his language.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, don't worry, buddy, I got this.
I literally stood up and cheered when that happened. It was awesome.
Yeah. And who is it that Jennifer...
I was about to say Hudson. Hale.
She's in
Jennifer Hale.
Mass Effect. Yeah. She does her grunts and things for the Prime trilogy, I think. So
yes.
Sounds like a waste of using Jennifer Hale there. Like, give her some dialogue. She's great.
Well, allegedly they had dialogue. And Kiwi, you could probably speak to this, but they had dialogue, but they just cut it for some reason.
Yeah.
I can't remember why.
Yeah. So it was in. She was supposed to narrate the intro for Metroid Prime, but they cut it out. Yeah, they didn't include it. Because I can't actually remember the reason why. There is a reason, and I think it was probably they just felt like it didn't fit. But Retro didn't actually handle that stuff. That was done by Nintendo themselves. They're very hands-on with the voice acting.
Oh, there you go. Well, I don't know. What do you think, Kiwi? Are you against, like... So this question to me is kind of like a question in disguise, where, like, are you against voice acting in Metroid or not? And I feel like I'm not.
Same.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Metroid Other M just killed me wanting to hear Samus talk in English. Like, the way they did it in Dread, I think that was the perfect way to do it. But if it was English, I don't know. I think nightmares might reoccur for me of other M. Even if the dialogue was good, I don't know. And it doesn't really matter to me. I'm not huge on story anyway, as long as the gameplay is good. So if she doesn't speak at all, I'm okay with that. Link has not spoken at all, and how many games has he been in? So,
well, he's had a few things he said. There's never really, like, any true dialogue.
Yeah.
But like in Wind Waker, you know, he's got these little, hey, come on.
Yeah, well, those are like text boxes and little small things. Like,
yeah.
Obviously,
yeah.
Samus narrates in Fusion, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's necessary. You can edit, but if you're going to do it right. Otherwise, it'll kill everything, and then you'll see all these people posting about other M again
for like 10 years after the fact.
Yep.
PTSD.
Right. We have one more negative other M question, and then we'll move on actually to some fun Zelda-themed questions as well that we got from the Zelda Dungeon Discord. So this is kind of an apocalyptic scenario here, but HKH 2003 asks, would you rather be forever cursed with Federation Force style gameplay or other M style dialogue? I'm taking Federation Force gameplay, guys.
Definitely. That's an easy one.
I have never played the game, but I'm going Federation.
Yeah.
What's with everyone's obsession with other M? Why do they want to talk about it?
Because controversy creates cash, as they say, and there's nothing more controversial in Metroid than other M. Let's do some positive stuff here, though. Let's do some positive stuff. Minneapolis King, our buddy Ryan, asks, if Metroid got a challenge mode in the vein of Ocarina of Time's Master Quest, would you rather a left-right mirrored mode or an up-down invert mirror mode? I don't know. I actually can't picture what an up-down inverted mirror mode would look like. So, and I also don't really know that left-right would be all that big of a deal. Maybe it would be, and I'm underestimating it. But I would rather so Master Quest kind of like rejigged all the dungeons in Ocarina of Time, and I just actually played a ROM hack, Super Duper Metroid, which kind of does the same thing with the areas in the game. So that's actually more so the style that I would be hoping for, where like maybe some of the areas are a little bit, the layout's different, so it's more challenging.
Yeah.
Is the question about the change in controls or change in the environment? Like on
I think
Quest,
it's environment,
the world is mirrored,
isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's asking about a mirrored world. And I kind of cheated because I didn't really answer at all. But he's asking about like an up-down inverted mirrored mode. And I don't know what that is.
So
Kathrine, you're
it would be
good
like
at video games.
it would be like Norfair is top of the map and Criteria is at the bottom. Like if I'm using Super Metroid.
Okay, so it's like Twilight Princess
as
Wii versus
an analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, mirrored map. Mirrored controls would be a nightmare.
I don't think he's talking about mirrored control. I don't think.
No, I think he's talking about environments. But either way, I'm kind of like, I don't really care.
Nobody wants any of that, Minneapolis King. Sorry, okay? We don't want mirror nothing. We want remixed areas.
Like, it's still difficult for me to play Master Quest because I know Ocarina so well, and then when I, pull up Master Quest, I'm like, oh god, I have to go to the right to exit Kokiri Forest. What am I doing? It's jarring.
You know what? That's actually true. When you're in the Lost Woods in Master Quest, it's pretty trippy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go, Ryan. There's your answer. This is a heartbreaking question from Bathanon. He asks, would you rather the Zelda series to have never existed or the Metroid series to have never existed? I'm not going to answer this, man. I'm not doing it. Sorry. You're not going to do me like that.
I'm going with Zelda.
That hurts.
I'm going with Zelda. Never existing. Primarily just because Metroid is a lot more dear to my heart, and it got me through some very, very tough times. So I do not know if I would still be here if it was not for that franchise.
All right, I respect that.
That's wholesome.
I feel like I know your answer, Kat. Maybe I don't actually. You've been surprising me here with kill the animals. What say you?
Well, my first love is Zelda, so
right.
I can't live without Zelda. Similar situation there with Kiwi. It got me through some hard times, and it's got a special place in my heart. Not that Metroid doesn't, but it came later in my life, and Zelda is a childhood childhood love.
I do love Zelda though.
I love.
Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love both too dearly. This would be like if I was Darth Vader and I just had twins born and Padme didn't make it, but I still had Luke and Leia, and they were just like, which one do you love more? I'm not going to answer that question. They're both my kids. I'm not going to do it. So I'm sorry, but I abstain. All right, let's keep
Very diplomatic of you.
Yeah, let's keep it going. Mew D Dean has a question. Would you rather an expansion to the Metroid Prime series or another 2D Metroid? Well, my friend, we have another Metroid Prime game coming, and I bet you that we have a new 2D Metroid coming sometime in the future as well. So, how about both?
That gift, the little girl.
Yeah.
Why not both?
Why not both?
I'm all for Prime
So, yeah.
because I think it would help the franchise grow and give it more exposure. And yeah, we just had Dread, so. And I think there's still so much untapped potential within the 3D games, the Prime games.
I think I love playing both so much. I think that if I could only play one for the rest of my life, it would probably be 2D, because I like 2D Metroidvanias are just like some of my favorite types of games to play. But I mean, this truly is like a why not both? There's room for both.
Oh, there is room for both. Yeah.
Then I guess if the question is like, what would you rather have next? Then yeah, Metroid Prime, because it's been forever. But if the question is like, well, you can only pick one, I don't know. Maybe 2D, but I'd have to think about it.
I would say even if you got rid of 2D Metroid, there are still a lot of 2D Metroidvania games that could fill that niche. Whereas there is nothing nothing like 3D Metroid games. Like nothing. There's nothing that plays even remotely similar to them.
Okay, I respect that. What do you think, Kathrine?
I'm going to go 3D.
Okay.
That was my first foray into Metroid with Corruption, so...
Really? You started with 3 first? Okay.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. My first Metroid game was back in 2007. I got Corruption for Christmas, so I actually played the Prime Trilogy backwards. I ended up
what an experience
borrowing Prime from a classmate on the GameCube and beat that very quickly. I ate that up. That was so good. And then he let me borrow Prime 2 on the GameCube.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, because I would love to play them backwards, particularly as a noob, right?
Yeah.
Because they become less linear if you do it backwards.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The Doctor 8910 asks, I have a feeling I already know what the answer would be, but would you rather have a Metroid Prime Hunters remake or an Other M remake?
Oh, God. Hunters remake.
Other M isn't done with you yet, buddy.
No Other M remake ever. No. Let that die in the fairy pits of hell, that game.
I'm not familiar with Hunters, so I'm going to go Hunters.
I'm not going to go Hunters, because I don't think that there's much there.
What?
The single-player campaign was lackluster. The multiplayer was inhibited by the platform that it was on. And I think that you could easily fit everything that Hunters did into a multiplayer mode for Metroid Prime 4. So I'm going to say that I will take a remake of Metroid Other M, but a remake implies to me...
Come on!
...that you are... Well, no, hold on. A remake to me implies that you are remaking how the game controls. Okay, so we can fix that. We are taking an opportunity to maybe... Listen, a remake to me implies that you go back and you have a chance to fix some of the things that didn't work with the original release. We saw that with Majora's Mask 3D and the Bomber's Notebook. We've seen that with Link's Awakening and assigning buttons and stuff like that. We've seen that with Samus Returns and how it implemented a bunch of new control options. If you were to tell me that they were going to remake Other M with the same ferocity that they remade like Zero Mission or Samus Returns with, and improve a lot of the stuff that needs to be improved, maybe including the dialogue and have a little bit more of a straightforward story experience, I think I could be up for that. I think I could really sign up on that, because I think that the premise of Other M is really cool. It's just that the execution of it was very much lacking.
But then it wouldn't be
the premise is good.
But it wouldn't be Other M anymore, because you'd be changing
much. If you remade the game with the same premise, though, but like, what do you think the biggest flaws of Other M are? For me, some of the biggest flaws are the delivery of the dialogue, some of the story beats. I think that you can change that while being true to the original premise of Other M.
Okay, I'll go with dialogue, exploration, because there is none, linearity, like it's so linear. I don't like the...
No, this is not as linear a game as like Metroid Fusion. I mean, come on.
Metroid Fusion, you can still do exploration, and you can still go off the beaten path at times. Like, say when you're looking for the the sector locked door rooms? They don't tell you directly how to get there, so you're still doing exploration to try and work out how to get there. Like, Other M is literally room to room, and every room looks the same for the most part as well. And then, yeah, the controls as well, that's bad. I mean, there's so many bad things, man. Like, you'd effectively be making a new game by remaking it, because you'd have to change so much that it's not even the same game.
Yeah, but you could say the same thing about Zero Mission and Metroid on the NES, right? Like, that's a completely new game.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say the same thing about Samus Returns too.
Touche. Mm-hmm. That is true. Mm-hmm. That is true. Yep. Anyway,
I think that Hunters is a more safe option for sure. But I'm gonna take that chance. I'm gonna go and see what they can do if given a second chance with Other M. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they wouldn't knock it out of the park, but maybe it would be better. I don't know. Maybe it could redeem itself.
Just so we're clear, this will never ever happen.
No, it'll never happen. Never. Nintendo will never, ever acknowledge Other M again. I'm convinced of this. They're not, like, as much as it'd be cool to see Anthony Higgs come back, if it's from Other M, it's never coming back. I am 100% sure of this.
I remember when the trailer came out for Other M and he opened up his helmet and he was like, "Remember me?" I was like, "Nope, sure don't."
But I'm just saying, like, I think that the premise of Other M is kind of cool. Like, you have a rogue AI that's trying to replicate the powers of Mother Brain. You have a conspiracy within the Federation, and like someone is trying to eliminate the team of Adam. Like, in and of itself, I think that the premise is like actually kind of cool. It's just you get shenanigans like you're not authorized to use your beams or whatever, right? Like,
yeah.
So yeah, there's room for improvement, no doubt. All right, let's do a couple more here, and then we'll wrap it up because we're running long. But I'm having fun, so let's keep going. Chunky Beef Bombs. I love whenever Chunky asks us a question because this guy's name is so good. If you were a run-of-the-mill space pirate, would you rather have Ridley, Kraid, Phantoon, or Dragon as your commander or general? What a question that is. Wow. Ridley seems like he's kind of a hard ass. Phantoon seems like he's kind of scary. So for me, it's down between Kraid and Dragon. You know what? Dragon seems kind of nurturing. Like, she has those little baby Dragons around her, so I'm gonna take that.
Dragon? Who is that again?
That's the boss that you kill with the grapple beam really quickly.
I wouldn't want Kraid because he's so tall that you'd have to yell just for him to hear you.
Touche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with Dragon.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Ridley because I think he's the only one that's ever returned as a meta, right? So if he kicks the bucket, you've got some insurance later on in life if he shows up again.
Okay. Well, you know what? Phantoon showed up and he was doing his thing in Metroid Other M. Probably the best part of that game, actually.
Yes. Yep. And, I agree.
He's kind of like a ghostly figure that can maybe... But he's too spooky for me, though. I wouldn't want to be taking orders from that guy, you know?
Oh, that's another thing in the remake of
also,
Other M.
Ridley...
New soundtrack. There you go. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, totally. There are lots of possibilities. We should do like an episode one day breaking down how that would happen. Okay. We got two questions from Big Griff here, the Accursed Hunter. Would you rather have the next Metroid game involve time travel or Samus hunting supernatural creatures like vampires or werewolves? Kathrine, what say you?
I'm all about the time travel. I'm not into the supernatural stuff.
I 100%
really love
agree.
the aspect in Zelda with, Ocarina of Time, traveling forward into the future, to the past. The time shift stones and Skyward Sword are some of the best puzzles. I'm going to go time travel in this one.
Same.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Time travel.
As much as we were just talking about Fantoon and supernatural stuff, and there's Chozo ghosts, I feel like that's just not really like my thing. Like even like just a general horror movie, if it's like supernatural, I'm just like, this is not for me. Like I just think it's kind of lame.
And it's been done to death as well. Supernatural stuff and werewolves and vampires.
Yeah.
Leave vampires and stuff to like Castlevania. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Shout out to Castlevania Symphony of the Night, celebrating 25 years this year. All right, his second question. Would you rather have a Metroid game where you play as a Chozo or a Luminoth?
Luminoth.
I feel like this is pretty easy to me. Really? Okay, I'm taking Chozo.
I'm taking Chozo as well.
I guess I can see...
I think there's more history there.
Well, I was going to say, I guess I can see the allure of a Luminoth, though, because a Chozo theoretically might play similar to Samus.
Yeah, well, and we kind of got a glimpse of that with Dread. Whereas a Luminoth, like, imagine playing like Luminoth during the war with the Ing or something. That'd be cool.
I think I would be down to just play as like I don't know, just kind of like someone else, like we talked about last week. Like give me Raiden or something like that, something that you don't expect playing Metroid. All right, let's do like 3 more, and then we'll call it quits, gang, because we are running a little bit long.
Yeah.
This is another one from Death Proof. They say, would you rather have Metroid Prime 4 take place after Prime 3 or after Metroid Fusion and Dread? Technically, they both take place after Prime 3, but I think he's talking immediately after. You know what?
For continuation purposes, I'm going to go after Corruption.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think about this. I think that Metroid Prime 4 is not going to necessarily continue much from the original Prime trilogy. I think that they're calling it Metroid Prime because that's the style of gameplay
I agree.
that people associate. Yeah. I don't think that it's going to have anything to do with like the actual being Metroid Prime. And saying that means that this can take place at any place in the Metroid timeline. Now, you do have some unfinished business with Psylux that you could probably wrap up, and it might make sense to do that, before Super Metroid, but I also I think that you could do that at any time. So I think probably after Prime 3, because I think that Dread and Fusion is a little bit too far down the timeline. But if this was like in between Super and Fusion, or somewhere along there, I'd be fine with that.
I think given that I've spoken to a few devs and what they've told me, I think it will be after Prime 3. Like, in terms of chronological order. I think that will take place, and I think Psylux will be a big part of it. But, yeah. I'd also go after Prime 3. I don't need to know what happens straight after Ravenbeak immediately. There's still a massive gap there in terms of the time between 3 and Metroid 2. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Metroid is, super known for its storytelling anyway.
Totally. Although Dak would be like, no!
Yeah, he's probably screaming somewhere. I think that Metroid Prime is known, or like Metroid in general is known for its environmental storytelling, but straightforward narrative, I think that maybe not so much. Speaking of that, would you rather? This is from Elias X. Would you rather have? I don't know why I said Elias. Alias X. Would you rather have Psylux in a 2D Metroid game or AI Adam in a Metroid Prime game? This is not even a question. This is, I'll take Psylux in 2D every day, all day. I don't ever want to see Adam again. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I've had enough
tired
of
of
Adam
too.
Yeah, Psylux.
Get out of here, buddy.
Psylux. Yep.
So this,
also, isn't he's the bounty hunter that shows up at the end of corruption, right? If you 100%
Correct.
it.
Yes, and Federation Force
Yeah,
as well.
He actually shows up in Metroid Prime Federation Force and steals a Metroid egg as well. So Psylux might have the last Metroid in the galaxy. This question has to be a practical joke because I can't think it, but it wasn't framed as such. But I can't think of any other way that this question made it into here. Alias X asks, would you rather have Kirby in Metroid or another guest character? If so, who? So he's asking if I'd rather have Kirby or literally anyone else.
I think that's a rhetorical question. Yeah.
Come on. I'd rather have Adam than I'd rather have Kirby. I would rather have... I can't... It's so outrageous that I can't even think of a good response for this. If I was like... If they told me, like, you either like have to walk the plank or sit in an electric chair, or you have to play a Kirby or a Metroid game and Kirby's there, I might take the chair. Just to preserve the dignity and prestige of Metroid for future generations, okay? Kirby and Metroid, get out of here.
I'm just imagining Kirby coming through and just inhaling Ridley, and then, you know, just this cutesy little...
I hope in the next...
horrific dragon flying
Can you
around.
imagine the next Smash Brothers if they have a cutscene like that? I'll be thinking of you, Andy.
I'm going to be honest. I saw this question. I feel like I almost crapped my pants reading this question. I was like, what is this? No. Kirby and Metroid? Absolutely not. No.
I saw a lot of questions earlier as well. Like, I was just kind of breezing through them about crossovers with Animal Crossing. I'm like, where's this coming from? Like, did Animal Crossing have, like, an update where you could have, like, cute Metroid stuff? Like, the two games are so completely opposite.
Yeah, I don't know. I skipped over that one, to be honest.
I can't stand Animal Crossing, so, like, that's a hard pass.
Yeah, I was like, we don't need to answer this Animal Crossing question. I'm sorry, but we kind of already asked some crossover questions and stuff like that. So, yeah. There was also a question about Solid Snake somewhere in here that I think I skipped over, but... It's too late now. I think that we probably can't beat the Kirby question, so maybe we should just end on that. Because we've definitely gone a long time here, but these were some great questions, so thank you to everybody for asking. Except for you, Alias X, for asking that Kirby question. I don't know, man. Anyone else would be fine. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
No, it's been good.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
It's been good.
So Kathrine, I'll actually talk to you later tonight, I reckon. And I'll see you in July, and I'm sure that we'll probably get together on the Champions Cast sometime before then. And Kiwi, I think we might have to do that episode on how you could remake Other M. I think that we're on to something with that.
Yep. You could go into...
I thought he hung up. I thought the line just went dead. Yeah. All right.
Whoops, gotta go.
Yeah, so once again, thank you guys for coming on and doing the show with me. It was a lot of fun, yeah, thank you to everyone that sent in questions and asked questions and submitted. It was a blast. I love these shows. So that being said, we are going to get out of here. Of course, we want to encourage you guys to check us out over on Twitter at Omega Metroid Pod. You can check me out at Spiteri316. Kathrine is at Endicott K, that is with 2 T's, and of course Kiwi is at Kiwi Talkz with a Z, or a Z as you Americans say. Consider supporting Omega Metroid over on Patreon. We just released our second ever Metroid ROM hack review. It was all about Metroid Rogue Dawn, which is a pretty sick fan game actually. I had a lot of fun playing that. So go and check that out. Consider supporting the website if you are able. And, the best thing you can do is just spread the good word about the Omega Metroid podcast. Tell that Metroid fan in your life where they can get their weekly Metroid fix and leave us those sweet, sweet 5-star reviews. Until next week, everybody, we will see you then. Take care.